Welcome to the Why Music podcast, where we talk to independent artists about their journeys, the inspirations behind their music, and ultimately why they make music. This next artist is an indie pop artist with a passion for lyricism like no other. In just her third year of her career, she's creating a new experience with every new release. A truly independent creative who does it all, starting with car recording sessions, she's telling the stories we all long to hear. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I was just saying, I was just listening to an episode from last week, so it's exciting to be on the show now.
Happy to have you. I always like to start things off with where your journey with music all kind of kicked off.
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably when I was like, technically, probably when I was like 4 or 5, and my parents put me in piano lessons. So that's kind of where I learned some of, I guess, like the fundamentals of music and learning about notes, how to read music, and then how to play. And that was like my first real introduction to music. And I did that for many years. I even taught for a little bit once I got older. So I did that probably up until I was like in my teen years. And then I didn't really continue playing piano like after like pieces, but I would always kind of play chords along, like if I would want to sing a song for fun. And so I was always also interested in singing for fun, but I never thought I was like a good singer or anything. So I would just like do it for fun. And I would do it a lot and I loved it. And then, I just stopped singing for a while because I went away to school and didn't want to sing loud in the dorms. So I just kind of stopped singing for a bit. Um, and then the pandemic happened. So that's kind of when I started to get back into it, but it started from a pretty young age for me.
What was it about the pandemic that kind of sent you back into music in more of a way that you probably originally wanted to?
Yeah. It was probably a combination of one, being stuck at home, not much to wanted to keep myself entertained. Two, I was going through a lot like the year prior, like basically 2019. Like I had a lot of things going on. Like I had gotten, oh gosh, sorry. I had gotten out of I got out of a long-term relationship, and then I also like had this new thing with someone and it was like messy. So I had like a lot of like heartbreak situations going on, a lot of emotions to get out. Um and I was always interested in like I could always rhyme pretty easily when I was younger. So like sometimes I would like rewrite lyrics to songs I knew, but I never knew how to like write a melody or like create a song from scratch. But then I was like, I have a friend who's a songwriter. I was like, I'm just gonna try it and it'll probably be bad at first. So then I just did it and just kept doing it until I stopped hating them. But it was definitely like really, really healing for me because I had so many emotions going on at that time, being stuck at home, not being able to like go out and do things and like get over it. So it was like a good escape for me while I was stuck in my room.
I mean, nothing's better for writing music than heartbreak.
Exactly.
You
It's
were kind
it's
of
my
put
favorite
in the perfect
inspiration.
situation. You were handed a not so lovely silver platter to just kind of be like, let's do this thing.
Exactly. Like, do you feel the same? Like, is that usually your inspiration or there
I
are other
write better
things?
sad music than happy music, that's for sure. Maybe not like
Yes.
heartbreak because I haven't, knock on wood, been in that spot for a minute, but like there are other not so fun emotions. That's, I don't know. So for some reason, it's just sad music is always easier to write than happy music. It
It
just
is.
kind of hits different.
It really does. I feel like because it's so emotional and harder to deal with that you just have so much to say. So it's like, I feel like every artist is like, sad music is the easiest to write. Like, writing a happy song is hard. Because you're
I,
happy and you're just
yeah,
living. But when you're sad, you're like, I have to tell
exactly.
you about it.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is it's like it's so much easier to have conversations about the good moments, and everybody always defaults to the like, yeah, like I'm doing good, like how are you doing? But it's never like the super transparent because that's just not like a social norm. It's I feel like it's
Mm,
gotten to be more of, but like it's not a social norm to just be like, hey, like my life sucks right now, but like we're chilling. No one says that and then doesn't get like a weird look or two. So like that just
that's so
translates
true.
into lyrics, and that's why that becomes easier because it's like, hey, I already talked about all this good shit. let's deal with the other stuff now, you know?
That is so true because like you don't talk about it as much. So it's kept in. And if anything, it's also more difficult probably than feeling happy. So it's more difficult to process and then you're keeping it in and not talking about it to that many people. So it's like it's so much more inspirational to put it out there and like create art, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
those emotions I feel like also tend to have a heavier weight than like the good ones.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, or at least like it feels that way because you like experience it more deeply than you would like the happiness just because like that's what it's supposed to be and this is what's not so fun. But
Yeah.
so I think that also kind of makes it easier because there's more to kind of pull from.
Yeah. I feel like I've also always been a little bit strange in the way that I would enjoy being sad. Like I'm the type who will like always listen to really sad songs or watch really sad movies and like that was like my favorite thing. Like I remember I would purposely listen to sad nostalgic songs that would remind me of the sad memories and just
Oh
enjoy
no.
the pain, which is yeah, I know there's other people like that, but yeah, I don't know. I always enjoyed it, but I'm trying to be better about that now because I realize it's like not very healthy.
I think, everything in moderation is okay. If you're doing that on a weekly basis, we might be a little concerned.
Yeah.
So
I am
it's
not
all
doing it on a weekly basis
that's
anymore, but
good.
there was a point
Anymore.
where I was.
Anymore. Okay, well, progress is progress, so we'll take
Yeah.
it with that. Um, at what point in, probably around starting this songwriting venture after experiencing these different things, was it like, okay, like I'm writing stuff that is actually like worth writing. I want to do something with it. I want to put it out there. Like what kind of made that a transition into, hey, like I wrote this, let's do something with it and put it out there.
Yeah. Um, the first time I like kind of like put something out there and I actually like never really talk about it because I'm kind of like not embarrassed, but I'm like, let's just forget that that happened. But the first time I really did was it was like during the pandemic, probably like late in 2020. And I released a couple songs on SoundCloud and they are still there, but I never talk about them because they're like not like proud of them now, but I put them out. That was so it would have been just like on Instagram, like with people I personally knew. Like I didn't like really post things. It was just for people I knew, I guess. And I'd been writing for a bit and I was just kind of excited about them because I thought that, I liked them enough. Like I didn't hate them anymore from what I was writing. And I was like, I like this enough. Let me just put it out for fun and like, I don't know, see what like my friends think. Didn't think too much about it because it was just
Mm-hmm.
like a small group. I was like private on Instagram at the time too. So it was like nothing crazy. And then like people were super nice about it and it was nice to like see the feedback from people. But then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna keep making music like for fun. I don't know if I'll release more, but just do it for fun. And then I started posting on TikTok a little bit. But it was when I got into the production more, when I got to the point with my first song, which is called That's a Lie. It was the first point where I was like, I am really happy with the production. Like, because that was the piece that was always really hard for me getting started. Like the singing I'd been doing, the lyrics came easier for me because I could rhyme and like I liked poems, stuff like that. The melody took a little bit, but like the production was like such a learning curve that was really stopping me from releasing music or feeling like it was good enough to be released like on an actual platform. And then I was personally just really happy with That's a Lie and how it came out. And I worked really hard on the production, watched all these YouTube videos to learn about like logic. And then I was like, I am happy with this one. Like, I want to actually put it out and see like what people think. And then I was like sharing some stuff on TikTok. And then that's kind of where I got some of my followers from the beginning from that song and talking about like producing my own music and like kind of just learning it on my own, connected with some other artists who were trying to learn how to produce as well. So that was kind of like the main thing that got me to put it out there was that I was happy with the production of it, which might be a little specific, but that was kind of the reason that I put that one out.
So yeah, producing your own stuff is not always the easiest thing.
Yeah.
So I feel you on that one. Um, what was it that made you think like the artist thing was like for you? Like this was like when it like what was the shift from SoundCloud to TikTok and Spotify and the big leagues? So
Yeah.
what kind of made that transition one that, I mean, obviously we're still here, you're still doing it. So what kind of made that sort of jump into something that you've continued to invest time into?
That's such a good question because I actually hadn't really thought about that before. Like, or I hadn't been able to come up with an answer. Like
Mm.
I was like, what really, like other than the production piece, like what was like really the thing that made me think like I'm gonna keep doing this? Because the whole time at the beginning, like I wasn't sure if I was gonna be doing it in a few months. Like I remember even when choosing distributors, I specifically chose one that you kind of like submit and pay per song rather than paying annually forever because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this in a year and then I won't want my song to be taken down. So like I just
Mm.
wasn't sure if I was going to be doing it for long. But I think the thing that like took me to the step of releasing on like actual platforms was probably because the song that I released, like I felt like I wanted more people to hear it and hear the message maybe. Like the first two songs I released on SoundCloud, they were like not really that honest to what was going on with me. Like they were kind of just like fun songs that I had made up. But the one that I actually released, That's a Lie, was like very personal and felt a bit more vulnerable and something that I wanted people to hear um, on like a mass level. So I think that's why I decided to officially release it. And then I think the feedback from that one and the community that was built with like other artists trying to learn really motivated me to continue to keep going and like make this into a little thing.
Just a little thing.
Yeah, just a little thing that I
Just
love and spend so much time on, but just
just a
little.
little thing I've kind of been doing for the last like 2 or 3 years,
Yeah,
just
just my whole
casually.
personality, but yeah, it's just a little thing.
Um, Kind of going off of what you were talking about with the reason for releasing the first song, what is it that you find most often inspires a lot of your songwriting?
Definitely heartbreak. um like yeah, I have written some songs about some other topics. They're basically all sad, spoiler alert, but heartbreak is like the big one for me. And it's one thing that I don't like about myself, but for my whole life, I've been very like love crazy. And I've always been jealous of like my sisters. Like they're both pretty like chill with that stuff. Like they're like, if I have someone cool, if not, like that's fine. Like I'll just live my life and like have other interests. But like for me growing up, like I always had like five crushes. Like I was obsessed with all of them. Like it was just something that I've been dealing with for a long time. So heartbreak or being interested in someone romantically like really does impact me a lot, especially my emotions. Um, and I kind of find it a fun, somewhat lighter way to experience those emotions. Like there could be way sadder things of experiencing sadness than like somebody breaking your heart. So, and like I said, I sometimes enjoy being sad. So it's kind of like I don't enjoy the heartbreak, but it definitely inspires me a lot to make art, like write songs or just feel like some sort of purpose or like want to do something because of what happened. And like I even have one of my songs on my EP that's called Write a Good Song. And the whole premise of it is that like I purposely put myself in situations that I know are going to end badly, but like I'll get a good song out of it. And that's why. Like that's why I'm doing it. But it's
That's
like,
the
no, that's
justification.
yeah, but like we know like that's not the only reason. Like I'm just not the smartest when it comes to those things, but I like to say like, I'll just write a song. It's not a big deal, but it's been a huge inspiration. Like my EP and my album, like the whole theme is all about like a heartbreak that I went through. Different ones, but Yeah.
So the repercussions of being relationship crazy, as we'll put it, is you're experiencing those repercussions now at this point. All
Yeah,
their heartbreak.
exactly. Yeah, it's all coming out through music and
But it's working, if it's giving you something to kind of create, then do it for the song. Who
yeah,
cares? Do
you
it for the
know,
song.
sometimes you have to. Like, I think also like growing up, my favorite music that I would listen to was basically like Taylor Swift or artists like that who talked about like relationships. So it became such a meaningful thing for me. And I think like when I would listen to music on the radio that I loved it and I enjoyed it, but it wouldn't like make me feel things. And for me, like when I make music, usually I want to make the person feel something rather than just like have a fun, great song to listen to. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those songs are amazing in their own different way. But like personally, for me, when it comes to music, I like to like it, like I want you to feel the emotion or like to feel something from it.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I don't think you can have it both ways in the sense of like, oh, it like really makes you feel something and it's just like, as you put it, a fun song to listen to. I think both
Yeah.
serve their purpose, but you can't find like a like deep kind of meaning in all of them. Like if you listen to some of the stuff that's like a real bop, it's
Hmm.
just like, is it just me or does this not make sense? You
Yeah.
know? Like
It'll
it's
be
one
like
of
the same
those.
word
Well, I'm
repeated.
just like you listen to some of the lyrics and I'm like, am I like not understanding? Like, is it just like, is it above my like intellectual pay grade or are we spitting gibberish here?
Yeah, like
And
sometimes I think
but
they
it
say random
sounds
things.
dope, you know?
I think
It
because it
sounds
sounds good.
they can get
Yes,
away with anything.
agreed.
So, but
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe there is a different, maybe that's just part of some subculture that I'm just not a part of. That's just, like those lyrics mean something to different people in a different way. Um,
maybe. Yeah.
who knows? But my my question is, have you
Hmm.
ever tried to write a happy song? Or does it
I
all just
have.
come out sad? Okay. How is that gone?
Um, so actually one of the first songs I released on SoundCloud is a happy song. It's called My Mom Likes You. It's also about love, but
Yeah.
in a positive way. But again, like it didn't mean that much to me, and that's why I didn't release that one
hmm
officially. So that was
hmm
just kind of me having fun. But I would say, like, since then, like now that I've really got into songwriting, I've only fully written one happy song, and it was going to be on my album,
hmm
Dear You, before it was even called Dear You. It's a love song. It's happy. It was about the person, but then things didn't go the way I expected. So the album concept completely changed. The name completely changed. Half of the songs were removed,
Oh
wrote some new
no.
songs, and then I was like, this one just doesn't fit anymore. Like, I don't feel that way, and I just don't want to release it anymore. But I really did like the song, and like I remember I was so proud of myself. I was look at me, I wrote a happy song. Like that doesn't happen often. And I finished it and like started producing it and everything.
Oh
Um,
no.
yeah, but it just didn't feel right anymore after what happened. So I was hoping the album would go like in a nice direction, but it didn't. So
Oh, yikes.
yeah.
That does happen, and regardless of what the reasons may be, whether it's something happened or just the song doesn't hit anymore, plenty of times fully not every fully written song that you will write, and this goes for everybody, will be something that you find worthy of being put out. Because if you're releasing
Exactly.
everything, then you're releasing the good stuff and the not so good stuff, because not everything you write is going to be that good.
Yeah.
I've been going through that myself, and just like I'm looking at some of the stuff that I've written and I'm like, why did I deem this to be something that Spotify deserved to have? Like
Yes.
this, what were we thinking? I'm glad we're not thinking it anymore, but like, what were we thinking in the first place? Who
I totally
knows?
agree. I totally agree.
But you have to
Yeah.
write the not good stuff to get to the really good stuff. And then it's
Yeah.
all worth it.
Exactly. Not everything can be perfect, but even the experience of writing those things that maybe don't sound so great, they're still probably
Working that
healing,
muscle.
still good for you. Yeah. Um, but yeah, like actually I remember when I released my first single from the album that's called That Night. When I released That Night, I already had intentions of putting out an album. And the end of That Night has a lyric that's like, now I'm asking, what are we? And I can't believe what you said next. That's the last line in the outro. And I remember I literally put it in there like that because I was like, who knows what's gonna happen? Maybe it'll be good and positive. And then like the rest of the album will be like a love album. But if not, like we'll leave it open-ended. Like we'll see what happens. I had high hopes, obviously, because I released the song while things were happening. And then yeah, so it didn't go well. And then I scrapped the love song.
That's tough because that's a good line. That leaves things so nicely to really be like, what's gonna happen? But
Yeah,
now it's not there anymore.
it was not good. No.
Oh, damn. That's tough. Might have to save that for something else, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe next time something will be good. So then what you said next can be a good thing.
it can be a
It
good
has to be
thing.
a good thing at some point, right?
Exactly. Yeah, something good has to come eventually.
Oh yeah. Just hasn't come quite yet. If you had to create a new genre around your style of music, what would you call it?
Hmm. Mm, maybe like emotional roller coaster pop. Because
I
I feel
mean,
like I don't think it's necessarily unique. Like, I don't think it's unique to me. I think a lot of artists do that. But I think it's something for me, like in all of my music, that I want it to sound like that. And where, like, there's just so many emotions. Like, there's no song that's just sad. There's got to be, like,
mm,
other emotions, like where it gets
okay.
angry at a certain point, or like maybe the song sounds happy, but the lyrics are like so devastating. Like I just like it to be all over the
Those are
place
tough.
because that's how my brain works. Like my brain is all over the place. So I'm like, I want the songs to sound like that because I just want people to feel how I was feeling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, those are the toughest ones because it's like you listen to it and you're like, oh, like this kind of bops, and then you like listen to it a second time and you're like focusing more on the lyrics, and then you're like, wait, why do I want to cry?
Yeah, exactly. I love those because then you hear an acoustic version, you're like, oh, that it was sad. It
Yeah.
was sad. It was not
You
happy.
can't make an acoustic version and it not be some sort of pulling on the heartstrings, you know?
Exactly.
That's when all the truth comes out. That's when
Yeah,
everything
because you only listen
all
to the
bets are
words.
off. It's
Yep.
just raw.
Yeah. It's time. It's
Best.
time to cry.
Oh goodness. Is there a song that you've put out that you think best embodies who you are as an artist? Like one song and one song only. What are you sending or what are you showing someone to make them your next fan?
Yeah, that is, as you know, as an artist, such a hard question to like choose one of your children. Like, but I like how you didn't say like what's your favorite song, but you said like what's the one that
Oh no, it's
you think
those are two
really
different questions.
represents, yeah, represents you in your music. Um, I think I would probably choose my song "Dear You," which is like the title track of my album.
Dear you, I wonder how you're doing. Wish that I could ask you, but it's been weird. Are you going on vacation anytime soon? We used to talk about Tulum. So what if, by some weird coincidence, when I got on my flight, you were the guy sitting next to me? We'd catch up and talk about our lives. Cliche, right person, but wrong time. And then you'd realize we could give it one more try.
it's definitely not the most popular one. Like if I wanted to send a song to like an A&R person, I would probably send them like my If You Wanted to He Would song, because that one was like the poppy one that was the most popular of mine. But Dear You is the one that I think truly encompasses my style of music the best, and like both lyrically and through the music, and it has a lot of roller coaster emotions, like I said. So yeah, I would choose that one.
Fun fact,
Yes.
on an album that I had that no longer exists, I had a song called Dear You. Not
Really?
a relationship kind of song the way that
Okay.
yours was, but I had one called Dear You, and I was like, I haven't heard that title, and then you just like said that, and I was like, totally forgot that that was a thing that I did once, you
Oh
know?
my gosh. Well, maybe it'll come.
So
Maybe it'll make its way
maybe,
back.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was in my pre-college days when I didn't know how to do any sort of recording in any sort of quality way. So she might get revived and rewritten a little bit, but for right now, she's just a bunch of MP3s on my computer. So maybe she will return. But
She could be like a vault track, like
oh
Taylor
yes,
Swift,
yes.
right?
Maybe do
Yeah.
some like acoustic stuff later on and just pull a couple of those out.
Yes.
You never know. Who's to say what will happen? But have you found that the song that of yours that is quote unquote maybe the most popular or the most like one that everybody's like, oh, like this is like maybe the one that's sitting at the top of your Spotify profile, is that different than what you would deem to be your best one?
Yes. Yes.
So what are the options here? What are the
So if he wanted to, he would. When I had shared it on TikTok, it like blew up for
did a
me.
thing.
Blew up. You know, like it could be way bigger but for me, it was like it was.
But it
blowing
did a
up,
thing. It did a
yeah,
thing.
and I was like, whoa! And then I gained like a lot of my listeners and like more followers like from that particular song. And I like that song a lot. It's fun. It's like upbeat. The lyrics are still sad, not surprising, but it's
On
like
brand.
it's like a fun, like poppy, like almost 2000 or 2010 vibes, like just like fun pop. But I think for me, like that, it was almost like a little too upbeat for what I would say is like my best work. Like I prefer when there's like more range of like, you know, it starts off soft and then it grows versus kind of just being like fun the whole time. And I never had that intention for If You Wanted to, He Would. Like I wanted it to be a fun song because I was like, you know, this is like a catchy title. Like I just want this one to be like a little bit more lighthearted. But like songs like Dear You or even like my song Come Over, it's more focused on the lyrics, I think. And like, yeah, like the lyrics were a lot more thought out and intentional. If he wanted to, he would was really just like it came really easily, but I didn't focus as much on the lyrics. It was just gonna be fun. But lyrics are very important to me and probably the most important part of my songs to me. Like it has to mean a lot and like provoke emotion. And I think that's why I wouldn't say If You Wanted to is If You Wanted to, He Would is my best song, but it is the most popular one.
So what would you say is your best one?
And
again, not your favorite, but the best one.
Yes.
Unless those are the same.
I still think I would say either Dear You or Come Over. Because Come Over, is my favorite lyrically for sure. Dear You, if I had to choose one like overall with the production and the lyrics, I'd choose Dear You. But Come Over lyrically is definitely my favorite one that I've ever put out.
It's always interesting to me how what people deem as like their favorite and what we actually appreciate most about ourselves, like about our own stuff, it never lines up. I ask that question most times and everybody's always like, it's not my favorite. Or like sometimes even people are like, that number one over there, I don't like her anymore. You know,
Yeah.
like people just don't. And, you know, like it makes sense with like how you're like, if he wanted to, he would gained that traction. And that's what, you know, kind of created some momentum. It makes sense that that's up there. But I also find sometimes that it's the ones that kind of stick out from like artists' profiles is the one that's like the one. rather than like the one that's like very much in their mainstay. It's
Yeah.
interesting how that kind of happens at times because it's like, why? Like if
That's a
this
good
is what
point.
I'm doing and then there's this thing, why is this thing though? Like what are we doing? You
I
know,
guess
like
that's probably why so many artists like change because they were probably persuaded to do a certain type of music that wasn't really what they loved or were passionate about, but
mm,
would do well or would sell well, right? And then as they get bigger, they're like, well, now I can do what I actually want. And then people are like, I miss your old stuff. Like, why did you get weird? And it's like, well,
why
it's
did you
not
get weird?
weird. That's probably what they always wanted to do, but they were like being sold as an artist and a brand,
Oh,
right? And like
okay.
sometimes I think people have to do like even like Ariana Grande, like she had to do like bubblegum pop when she started, and then she ended up saying later like she didn't like that and like she wishes it was never her first single because it wasn't really what she was passionate about, but she just did it because of like that's what the image they wanted her to have.
Stupid record labels,
I know.
man.
That's
And
why
their
it's good to be
creative
independent.
control. It's good to be
Yeah.
independent until you're running the whole ship yourself. And then it's
Hmm.
like, okay, well,
Yeah.
here we are trying
It'd
to
be nice to
do
have some help.
a whole team's worth of stuff as one individual. But
Exactly.
I don't know. It's interesting. But also, I think part of it is like how people like artists change over time. Like, take one of the biggest names of today's music, Taylor Swift, for example. Like, every one of her albums is kind of like a different era. And if you kind of like
Yeah.
watch it, I mean, that's the Eras tour and everything, whatever. But
Yeah.
like as it kind of continues, like it's like each album and then the one that follows is like a Venn diagram where it's like they have their individual parts, but then they have something that's shared together. And then this one has
Hmm.
something that's shared with the next. But it's like 1 and 3 aren't that similar. Like, and then like
Right.
1 and 7, like those convince me those are the same artists. Like, please. Like they're just people. I think also just people change over time. Like, that's life. Like, I'm not the same person
Hmm.
I was 2 years ago. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, I think that has something to do with it. But I do also think that you're right in saying that sometimes people are told to do something that is then marketable and what, the current market or the current trend seem to suggest would be a good idea.
Yeah.
And then they just have to do that.
Yeah, which can
So,
be hard when it's like art
oh
and
yeah,
something that
like
you're so passionate about.
creating something good is hard enough, but you're gonna make me create something good that's not even like on brand. Come on now.
Exactly.
Come
Yes.
on now. What are we doing? Yeah. Um, if you had to pick 2 or 3 artists that you think your music is like a combination of, who would you choose?
Hmm. Um, Probably, I mean, I'm sure everyone says this, but I have to say Taylor Swift as the one.
Not the first time I've gotten that answer.
I'm so surprised. She's like this underground artist. I didn't know anyone knew about her.
I'd barely heard of her the first time she was mentioned.
Um, then let me think. Honestly, maybe like Maisie Peters
Okay.
and um maybe Gracie Abrams or like
Ooh.
slash Tate McRae. Like they're
Okay.
all they're all kind of like divergence from Taylor as like the inspiration, but I feel like because I feel like Gracie is like the folklore more end of Taylor, and then Maisie is like the 1989 more end. And I feel like those are the two I like go in between. I also don't listen, I'm not like that diverse with my music. Like I'll listen to the same people I like over and over, and
The
they're
same sad
definitely
songs.
inspiration. Yes, exactly. And I
Uh,
didn't even say Olivia Rodrigo, but I do feel like
that's
that
in
it's
there.
kind of similar vibes as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What about like those different artists? Like, what is it about them that you think is a piece of your puzzle, if you
Yeah.
will?
Yeah. Good question. Definitely the focus on lyricism and like storytelling through the lyrics. Um, also like I think when I said like Maisie and Gracie, it's like the two different ends of like it being a little bit more poppy and like produced versus it being a bit more raw and like vocals and lyrics. Like I feel like I kind of go in between those two ends. And then I think just like with the range that Taylor has, I do like to have each of my songs on an album, for example, like be different, like not a completely different genre, but like very different vibes and styles so that like nothing sounds the same
Hmm.
on a project. And that's always kind of my goal, which I feel like Olivia Rodrigo does as well. But I think that's kind of where I feel that it's similar. Like it's circles between like the three of them, I think, in terms of like the style and the vibes of the song. And then I think a lot of the heartbreak topics too are probably similar. Um, yeah,
Taylor Swift is known for her heartbreak songs
she
and the
is.
stories that come along with it.
And calling people out, just my favorite.
You did write a song called Dear You.
I
So
did. I called them
I'm
out.
pretty sure you know who he is.
Oh, he does.
I doubt he's happy about it.
No, it was actually awkward. Yeah, he did know, and yeah, he like told me, and I was like,
Okay.
he was like, "Did you have to put me on blast?" And I was like, "You knew I wrote songs before, so like I think I saw
You
this
did
interview.
this.
Yeah, like this is a you problem." Because Taylor was in an interview back in like the Red days, I think, and they were like, "Oh, don't you think like boys will be scared to date you because like you write songs about them?" And she's like, "Well, if they didn't do bad things, then like I wouldn't write bad things about them. So like just don't do bad things." I was like, "Exactly. Like you're gonna get called out."
That's, yeah. If you don't want the repercussions of your actions, don't do the actions in the first place.
Exactly. These are just consequences, accountability.
um, what is an outside passion of yours that you think impacts who you are as an artist?
Um, Probably writing. So before I even started writing songs, I've always been big on writing like story. So ever since I was young, like it's something I've been doing longer, like way longer than I've been
Hmm.
songwriting, like writing short stories. And I think that it's something I love and I think had a big impact on my songwriting when I got to music because I always try to like tell a story through the lyrics, using like imagery, um, trying to like set the scene so like people kind of feel like they're there. That was always kind of what my goal was when I was writing stories too. So I think that it's definitely had a big impact on my music, but it's also just something I really enjoy to do to get creative and I don't know, just piece out things that aren't real, but it can be fun to dive into stories or fantasies, I guess.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you can kind of like it's one of those things where like I've talked to some people on here where it's less of like writing their own experience in a very indirect way, where sometimes it's like you're writing about either somebody else's experience or putting in that kind of like other character sort of perspective to kind of really execute it in a way that feels a little detached. Because sometimes
Yes.
that's easier. Um, what's the harm in, writing a story that, maybe there's some truth to it in the sense of like you're maybe somewhat relating to it, but you're painting it in a different way. That way, it's you can paint the picture however you want to paint it. It doesn't have to work out any way in particular. It can
Hmm.
be whatever you want it to be. So if something happened and it didn't go as planned, plot twist, I'm writing the story. It's going a different way. It's going the way that I wanted it to in the
Exactly.
first place.
Like you're basically gaslighting yourself, but it's okay because you're doing it to yourself. Like you can literally write a story about something that happened and like you said, make it have the outcome that you wanted it to have and experience it while you're writing it, even though it didn't happen that way. And yeah, like it's
I feel like it sounded a lot better when I said it, and then you took it and turned it into gaslighting yourself, which just
I
doesn't
love it
sound
though.
doesn't sound good.
I gaslight myself all the time.
That's I'm gonna put that in the bucket of does not sound healthy.
Another one. This is why I write so many songs, you know.
This is
There's just
why, spoiler alert, they're all sad.
they're all sad. But I really like what you said about like putting it in a different narrative of taking it
Mhm.
away from yourself and like
Yeah.
getting to either see it a bit clearer that way or like being able to paint the picture better when you take
Mhm.
yourself away. And like that was something I intentionally did with one of my songs, the one I was talking about earlier called Come Over.
Mhm.
It's one of the two songs on the album that are from third person. Every other song is from first person, like I like Dear You.
Okay.
But I specifically wrote Come Over from a third person because I it was almost like one of those things where the song is so um I don't like this word, but almost like pathetic, like the things that I'm saying. Like not in like a bad way, like that's pathetic, but like pathetic, like that is just so like upsetting. And
Oh,
you know, like not like
okay.
that, yeah. But just like so sad and pathetic and thinking about it happening to you, like you wouldn't even like say those things out loud. You would just pretend those things aren't happening or you wouldn't think it's that bad. Like you'd be
Mm,
like, it's normal, it's fine. And then when you take yourself away from it and you pretend it's a different person, you're like, oh no, that's like pretty bad and sad.
yeah.
So that's why that one's like in that perspective, because I had to take myself out of it to see what it really looked like.
The rose-colored glasses came off for that one.
Yes, they did.
That's
Exactly.
tough. It's like, yeah, it's just like you can always see in somebody else's situation, like that's problematic, but it's like your situation and it's like red flags. Who sees red
Yeah.
flags? No,
I
they're
love
not here.
blocking them. Like you know they're there and you're just like, nope, I'm okay. That's why you just don't tell your friends about them and then they don't exist.
So, that's your first indicator right there. If it's something that you're like, I'm not going to tell anybody that this happened because they're going to tell me that this is wrong. That's your
That's
indicator that
bad.
that shouldn't be happening in the first place.
Yes. Big red
Tough
flag for
scene.
sure.
Tough scene. What is an what is the ideal listening scenario for someone to consume your music in?
Oh, like the environment or like how
Yes,
they listen to
environment,
it? Oh, okay.
situation, however you please.
I love that question. It's gonna sound a little concerning again, but probably sitting in a dark room at night with some good quality headphones on, sitting there in the dark and just closing your eyes and listening to the lyrics. And like
Focuses
obviously the
all
music
on the
too,
lyrics.
but focus on the lyrics. Yeah. Or you know what? Listen to it once and just listen to
Enjoy.
it and then listen to it a second time and be like, okay, what is she saying? I'm okay with
Yeah.
that.
Set the tone with the vibe.
Yeah.
Repaint the picture with all the words, and then experience everything that you're going to experience.
Yes. And always listen in order of the project.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am an album stan, tried and
Yes.
true. Like you can't put an album on shuffle the first time you listen to it.
No. Oh
You can do it
no. That's
another
like,
time where it's
oh,
like, oh, like I don't want to listen to like this song, but I'm not going to admit that I don't want to listen to this one song. But the
mhm.
first time through, you have to, like,
Yeah.
yeah, like Ash on one of her albums did like on a couple songs where it was like the intro to the next song was like the last like few seconds of the song prior. So it's like it
Mhm.
had to go together. And it's like if you just
Yes.
listen to that song on its own and you're like, oh, like there's more. No,
Mhm.
listen to the album.
In
Listen to the
order.
album. You can
So
listen to the
much,
songs by themselves later, but listen
yeah,
to the
after.
album.
So much like thought goes into that for
Oh
artists
my
to
God.
decide like what order
I
it's
have
going to
entire
be
car
in.
listening sessions of like, okay, like this one sounds like it's like a 2 or like a 6. So we're gonna put it like there. And then it's like sometimes it just works out. Like you're like, what is the vibe? Like where does this belong just like in general? And then
Yes.
it just kind of pieces together as it is. It's not, oh, this one needs to go after this one always. I don't
Right.
know.
I'm
It's
a
all
big,
about the vibes. It's the numbers. The numbers make a difference. You know, like I will
it
release a
is.
song on a Tuesday if that date has a nice vibe to it, you know?
I love it. But
That's
yeah, I feel like for me I really like chronological. Like I love it when an album tells the story in order. And I feel like I'll probably always do that. So I would sometimes produce my songs a certain way to fit the chronological order, but have the vibes of an album, you know? So it's not like too much of sad and slow and then too much of upbeat. Like I wanted to have a mix. So I'll write them or produce them in that way of the
Wow.
chronological order because I want the story to be like in order of how it happened.
Damn, that's to another level. That's cool though, because it's like then you're already like in a position where you know what's coming top to bottom, and it just like how it fills itself in is what really is like where the magic happens, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's cool. What do you think sets you apart from other independent artists?
Um, maybe that I do like everything by myself. So like I will write it, I record it in my car.
Yeah, can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah,
You record it in your car. Is there
I
like good
do.
acoustics in there? Like what's
The car is in a garage. So
yeah.
it's in the car, in the garage. And it was just the quietest place I could find when I started. And then I
Mm-hmm.
just got so used to it. And now it's like my little studio, but it still is like a nice, quiet, enclosed space. And I have a Shure mic like yours. So it doesn't have like a lot of background noise or anything. So it works pretty well, I think.
You still continue to do it out of your car?
Yes,
Wow.
still.
That's kind of cool. I mean, that's a thing in
I guess
itself that I
that's
don't know that
unique.
anybody else does. You're the car producer.
The car producer. Yeah. Yeah, so that's a unique piece. But yeah, then I record it and then I produce it, I mix it, and I also master it myself. And
Damn.
any of the artwork, like obviously I don't take my pictures. Like I have an amazing photographer friend who does the pictures, but like the concepts and like the way like things look and stuff like it that I
Original
always
ideas.
come up with that too. So I'm kind of I think and I'm sure there's other artists like that, but I think it's more rare that like no one really touches it except for my photographer friend who does the pictures and edits them and everything like that. Like she does an amazing job, but other than that, I'm like nobody else has touched this
No
except
one
for
is
me.
allowed.
No one,
This
because
is
I'm
this
like
is
this
my
is so
confidential
personal.
space.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
so personal, but then you're putting it out,
I
like it's
know.
like, oh, like it's just me. It's just for me for right now. And then boom,
Yeah.
TikTok in the world.
I know, that's true. It's kind of funny. It doesn't make any sense, but
Do you like the fact that you do it all yourself in the sense of like I genuinely like enjoy it, or is it more of just like this is where it kind of started, this is how we've been doing it so far, it's working, so like if it's not broke, don't fix it? Or would you prefer to outsource it? Like is it a choice, or is it more of just like this is just what's happened and we're riding it out?
I think it's a bit of a mix of both. Like, I do like having control over everything and like making things sound exactly the way I want to sound. And like, I don't have to take anyone's opinion. Like, it's just, I wrote this, this was about me. It's like, I'll put it out however I think is best.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit about the control side, but also it's like really exhausting to like have to write, produce, and master your an album, and like you have to listen to your own voice on that song
So
like
many
so
times.
many times. By the time it comes out, you're like, I don't ever want to hear this
Oh
again.
no.
Enjoy, but don't play it in front of me. So some of that, like, it gets tiring. I think I would put out so much more music if I had a producer like who produced it and mastered it for me. Like I'd be putting out songs like that because the writing part, like I do that like every day. Like that would be a lot faster. But I don't trust that easily. So it would be hard for me to work with someone else.
I feel like that tracks based on how earlier conversation has gone. A lack of trust definitely tracks.
Right. Gosh, I'm just like advertising like that I need some help or something. Oh, it's fine.
Um, you kind of touched on this, and this is something that I thought about myself recently. I feel like there's, and I haven't case studied this yet, so I don't know how many people actually feel this way, but I
Mhm.
feel like there's a bit of release aversion in the sense of like I love my stuff. I will listen to my stuff, and then the day it's out, I'm like I don't want to like play through it anymore. I don't want to like listen to it. Then it's like, like I will make the content because I have to make the content, but like that is the level that I will consume it. But up until then, like I'm pulling up the voice memos, putting it on in the car when I'm like driving
Mhm.
places. Then literally like I don't even need to hear it on release day. The day that it is out, I'm like, do not put this in my ears for a hot minute. Like
Yeah.
I've had that, like I've released 3 songs so far this year, and each one
Mhm.
has been, I can't.
Do you think it's because you have to listen to it so much though, like while you're working on it and then it's out and you're like, I'm
Um,
done?
Considering I'm not doing my own mixing and stuff anymore, I'm not listening to it as much as I like used to. I've also gotten to the point where my voice isn't something that I hate anymore. So
Yes.
that's like, always
Good
a
job.
plus, but that could be part of it. It's just I don't know because like I would listen to the like rough, untuned original like thing, but then
Uh-huh.
like the second it's out, I'm just like, she's not for me anymore. On to the next. I don't know if it's just like the like anticipation of it going out and then it's like, okay, like nothing
Maybe.
happened, but
Yeah.
I don't
It's
know.
like it's done. I
Yeah.
do feel like that too. I think for me, part of it though is that I'm like, once it's out, if I
Hmm.
listen to it, I'm listening to it knowing this is what other people are hearing, if that makes
Mm,
sense, you know? Because like before it's out, it's just like no one else is gonna hear it. So you're just listening to it and you're like, yay, I worked so hard on this song. I love this
right. Then
song.
it's like,
And it's
ooh,
out. And the whole time you're
this
like,
is
oh,
yeah.
this is what people are hearing. Like, what
Yeah.
do they think? Like, yeah, I feel like there's more anxiety around it now that it's like out for
Yeah.
the world.
What impact do you ultimately want to have with your artistry and with your music?
Um, I really want people to like, okay, so I said earlier how like my music is quite emotional and I want to evoke emotions in the people who are listening to it. Like that's kind of my goal. Like I want people to learn that music can be something that like really makes them feel things, different emotions, and I want people to feel like not embarrassed or wrong to express those feelings or to have those really strong feelings. Like I said, I've been love crazy forever, but even if it's not love, I've always been very, very emotional. Um, Even though I don't talk about it,
Hmm.
like I've been very emotional. So I think it being in music more, like hopefully people being able to feel comfortable to talk about those things or just feel that way and like not feel ashamed of it at all. Like it's totally normal and it's good for you to actually feel your emotions and not like repress them and ignore them,
Hmm.
which is what I've done a lot. Because like you said, like you don't talk about those things. I wouldn't journal about them. I would just pretend things are fine and then it just bottles up and then you just like can't handle it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope people can feel like emotional release because it's good. It is good to cry every once in a while.
It's unhealthy not to, I feel like,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like my favorite thing. Like it sounds, I don't mean it in a malicious way at all, but it's one of my favorite things when I'm performing at a show. Like just recently this happened and like I'm singing a song that I'm very emotional about. I'm almost gonna cry to, and I want the emotion to come out. Like I'm not singing it to sing good. I'm singing it to sing emotionally and to show how I was feeling when I wrote it.
Hmm.
And I just when people come up to me after and they're like, "You made me cry." I'm like, "Thank you." I'm like, "Sorry, but thank you." Because that's like I just want people to feel it, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, in that kind of also then becomes a testament to the quality of what you're doing and the way of how you're articulating it, how you're delivering it in the production and sonically. Like if what you're able to do is actually able to elicit some sort of emotion from somebody, whether it's like the same exact emotion you were feeling or not, like you're doing something right.
Right.
It,
Exactly.
and I mean, music has that kind of power, which is just crazy.
It
It's
is.
just crazy. It's such a weird thing, but it's like so dope at the same time.
I literally think it is the closest thing to like magic.
Facts.
Like it's
That's facts.
literally it literally is magical. Like
Like,
that
just
you can
try
do so
wrapping your
much
head
with it.
around it. Just try. You
And
can't
like the fact that like it can like heal people like when they do things, like it's music therapy, like it's
is a
literally
thing.
magical.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, and the fact that like they say it's gonna be like hundreds of years before they like run out of any like original ideas, and like, like there's
Wow.
never gonna
Yeah,
not be like new music. Like, what can like how can like what else can you say that about?
I
Like, yeah,
know.
there'll like constantly be like new inventions and things, but that's freaking technology, okay? Freaking let AI do their shit, okay? And
Yeah.
let them have their time. But like it's just like human people, hundreds and hundreds of years, still creating new stuff in this thing that we're
Mhm.
calling music. What? What do you
It boggles my
mean?
mind. Like,
Like,
how
you're
are
not
there
just
that
gonna run
many?
out? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, how is that even possible? There's only so many notes, but
There's
apparently
only
it's
so many
possible.
notes. There's only so many words in the dictionary. There's only so many
Yeah,
instruments, but there's constantly new sounds, like
exactly.
synths haven't always been a thing. I don't
Yeah.
think. Not
No, I
always, at
don't think
least.
so.
I
Yeah.
mean, that had to be some sort of technology at some point, right? I don't know how
Exactly.
old they are, but they're not as old as like, like orchestral stuff and whatnot. It's crazy.
It really is. So amazing to be able to be a part of it or to like create it in however way you may
Hmm.
do it. It's awesome.
I think that brings us to the final question, which is ultimately the
Okay.
concept behind the entire podcast, which is why music?
Ooh, a deep question to end things off.
Always.
Why music? I should have prepared because I listened to your podcast, but I didn't. Um, I just think like with what we were just saying, music is like one to me the closest thing to magic. To like the best way to convey anything, like any message, any meaning. I just feel like you can explain it through music. Um, and for me, like I said this earlier, I've always or traditionally not been very good at talking about my feelings and like I would just repress them in and I just wouldn't really deal with them. And that's probably why I always want to be sad. But music like allows or creating music really allowed me to finally stop and just start feeling with how I was feeling and writing it down or thinking about it or addressing it and then truly healing from it and being able to move on. Like I feel like I have not grown as much as I have in the that doesn't make sense. I have not grown until the past few years of doing music, like not nearly as much because there's just so much healing that comes from making music and it does bring up like some past situations that maybe are difficult to deal with and very emotional while you're going through the writing process
Hmm.
or the recording process or whatever it is. Like there's so many times where I'm recording and I literally just start like crying because it's like so emotional.
Hmm.
But that I'm dealing with it and I'm addressing it and I'm healing from it and moving on. And I feel like when I release a song, it's like that chapter is over. I can move on. Um, so it's been very healing for me, but I also really hope that it is like healing for other people as well. Like it just means so much to me to be able to connect with other people all around the world because
Hmm.
of me making songs in my car. Like I just think that is the coolest thing ever. And like, there's so many different ways you could go viral. Like, for example, like there's people who go viral because they are literally like just so beautiful, right? And
Hmm.
like, but for me, like the music means so much to me. Like I wouldn't ever want to go viral like because of the way that I look. Like that's just like me personally. Like I would want to go viral for music, if anything, because I just I just feel like I have so much to say and I want people to like heal from it as well. And I want people to know like they're not alone. Like other people go through similar things, especially when it's a really sad, relatable lyric and people are like, that happened to me, or I feel the same way. And you just see like how many people are commenting that are like, that line was so relatable, that they probably thought, oh, like it's just me, like what's wrong with me? Like, no, we're all going through it. And I hope that it brings like some sort of community amongst people in the same way that like Taylor Swift does with people who listen to her music. I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of touch back onto what we were just talking about. It can affect and impact people in a way that is just unheard of otherwise. It's like, and it's crazy to think, being someone who can create music, what kind of impact that can have. Because it's like, it's almost like it's like, I don't want to say you have power, but it's like, because like that just sounds like that could use your power for good, not for evil, you know. But
yeah,
it's crazy the kind of impact that it can have, and like the people that are doing it for the right reasons and that are in it really for the people on the other end, like how you're talking about it and everything, like that's what makes this shit so crazy good, you know. That's what makes this such a cool thing and makes music just such a cool experience in general, is like it's just the means for what you're ultimately trying to do. It's just the medium in which you're creating and trying to deliver whatever it is that you have to say. Music is just the way that it works.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
It's just, it totally keeps me going. Like I love it so much. I love creating it. I love listening to it. Like music is just, it's healing. It's magical. It's amazing. Like I don't even think I can put it into words. See, I told you I'm not very good at the speaking part or expressing, but like talking wise, I'm like not the best. But there's got to be a song written about why music is so amazing. Then that can convey the amazingness of music.
Facts. Yeah. That would be like a music inception though. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. It's like boggling my mind a little.
Yeah. Like writing a song about how music is so good, but then the music itself would have to be so good in order for that statement then to be true. And
Yes.
so like, but how do you know if, you know, it's,
yeah, it couldn't
we'll
just be
day.
like music is good. It would have to, like, the lyrics would have to do it in
well, and the
in a
song itself would
beautiful,
have to be good.
eloquent way.
Otherwise, the whole like thesis
It'd be a
essentially would be
lie.
flawed.
Exactly.
That's okay. Yeah, somebody out there will have to write that one. I'm not taking on
Yeah.
that task.
Yeah, that's a
Not in
big
my
responsibility.
hands.
No, thank you.
Not in my
Someone
hands.
else.
So, all right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of this episode of the Why Music podcast. Check back again next week for another conversation with another independent artist. Thanks for listening.